Okay. Good morning, everyone. Can you guys hear me? Mm,
Good morning, doctor.
yeah. Okay. Good morning, Nana. So, I gather that my voice is clear. Okay. So, should we proceed, or perhaps alert the other colleagues that we're here? Can somebody go on the WhatsApp group and tell them that we're starting in perhaps a minute or two? Okay. We have a lot to cover today because today marks the start of our series of revision for the MTA, the midterm exam, that you're having in perhaps 2 weeks, right? Um, so this is what we're doing today. We're going to go over the plan and start implementing it, inshallah. So it's revision that we're doing today, and in the master class that we're having also today. Let me also remind you that you guys have your second in class activity at, when did I say it should be? I sent you something about the announcement that I posted on LMS yesterday. So did I say 5:30 or 6? Remember when the second in class activity is today?
At 6.
At 6 o'clock. Okay, nice. Okay. So, like I said, today marks the beginning of a series of classes on or preparing for the midterm exam, right? So let me confirm with you, when is the midterm exam? Did you check the the university website for that? Because it's already there. When is the MTA? Can somebody come to the mic and share that with us? When is the MTA? The MTA exam, the midterm,
On the 2nd
2nd of what?
November.
So it's November the 2nd, right? Okay. November 2nd. Okay. Okay. So we have, I think we have time. Perhaps we'll schedule at least two more, revision classes. I mean, given the fact that we also have the time of the master class, so we'll have plenty of, kind of opportunities to go over the material in depth and in detail, hopefully. Again, when we're doing revision, it should also be bi-directional. I mean, the idea that I'm saying everything and only one or two are reacting and responding is not um, something that I like. So I would like you to engage. I mean, you still have time to, even if you haven't started the course in terms of, reading and stuff, you still have a chance, a big one, I promise you. Engage with us, ask questions, and rebut and challenge what we're saying. You still have time to do that. Uh, Again, for those who just arrived, we're starting this series of revision classes targeting the MTA, which is, according to you, uh, on November the 2nd, right? So we have a revision plan that we're implementing as of today. So let's first of all agree on what we have so far, how far we have gone, and what what is kind of expected of us in the midterm exam ahead. Um, so what we have covered so far um, are concepts and ideas about picture books, right? And then we transitioned, or perhaps we started with, talking about talking about children's books and literature, and we made those um, kind of distinctions between mainstream literature and children's literature. And we spoke about some landmarks and characteristics when it comes to children's literature. And then we had Tom's Midnight as a representation of, you know, novels that represent children's literature. And then we transitioned to picture books, spoke about what picture books are, spoke about the trajectory of picture books. We had a chance to talk about the even the history of children's literature, including picture books, and how they were not they suffered neglect for so long until they came to their own in the 19th century. So these are things that we're going to cover together. So again, it's this is what we are kind of unpacking. We'll revisit issues about picture books. We're going to talk also about the representation here, which is the Little Peter Rabbit. We will have time to talk about the issues and the ideas and the interpretations of the Tale of Peter Rabbit, the characters, how looking at the picture can make all the difference. And then we move to Tom's Midnight Garden and speak about its place in the history of children's literature and its centrality being one of the finest pieces of children's literature. And again, we'll talk about the issues, spawning out of the discussions and the different interpretations, characters, and Hattie and her centrality, and the disputed claim to the title of the novel. Remember, it's Tom's Midnight Garden, not Hattie's Midnight Garden. So these are things that we're going to do together. Perhaps the primary focus is normally on the primary source, and the primary source would take us later to the secondary sources. And we'll have time to also talk about the secondary sources and whether those secondary sources, in terms of the ideas they communicate, are they do they coincide with the ideas that we came out with, focusing on the primary source and reading the primary source, and whether there is any divergence and difference, and how and why, and everything in between. So these are the things that we're doing as of today, as part of this series of revisions that we're starting this morning. So again, the course components so far are Tom's Midnight Garden, The Tale of Peter Rabbit, um, the historical background, spoke about children's literature in general, and then we spoke about picture books and their unique place in the history of letters and what makes them different in terms of if we talk about children's literature, we talk about this idea of fantasy. We talk about this idea of anthropomorphism. When we talk about picture books, we talk about the centrality of the picture and the image. Um, so this is actually what we're doing. Let's talk about the exam itself. And this is typical. If you have come that far, you know how MTAs are organized. You normally have it's kind of it's a 2 hour setup and it's on campus. Make no mistake about it. You have to come and do the exam here. It's a midterm exam. Um, and the exam itself is divided into two sections. You have short answers section and you have the essay sections where you write essays, long ones. In terms of questions number, normally in the short answers section, you normally have 3 questions and you normally choose, or you're actually obliged to choose 2 out of the 3. When we talk about the long essay part, you normally have 2 questions and you are supposed to answer one of them. And one of them, uh, I don't know, sometimes it's mandatory that you attempt and try and do the question that has close reading to it. And close reading is about having either a picture or a text, a passage from the novel, and you um, kind of approach it. You kind of critique it to locating it, giving it context, and talking about the ideas that it involves. I think over the years you have done enough close reading to know what close reading is. But we'll have time to also talk about close reading, I promise you. And perhaps I can give you like a passage and an image, and then we unpack them together, try to crack their codes, because even a text has codes. Interpreting the text in a certain way involves, looking at symbols and layers of meaning and all these kinds of things. So we'll have time to um, do a bit of close reading together. So this is what we're doing, and this is how the exam looks. Short answers, essays. Normally, the close reading should be done in an essay format. It's not a couple of lines that you're going to write. No, you need to write an essay that is clear, that is relevant, that is comprehensive. It's a 2 hour setup, like I said. So where should we start? I think we should be starting with picture books because this is what we ended with. So we're going to start the revision with what we ended with and move on to what we started with, which was Tom's Midnight God. But before I proceed, if you guys have any questions, whether those questions are procedural or otherwise, come to the mic and share that. Okay, so no questions.
Yeah, doctor, no questions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome. Okay, so let's go to picture books. Um, Again, these are picture books, right? So can I moderate the talk because it's something that we have done? So why don't you come and share ideas? When I say picture books, what comes to mind? And I need everyone to be engaged. Again, I'm not revisiting issues the way I did because obviously I cannot say everything in one setting, things that I have been saying over the past 4 weeks, right? So it should be collaborative. I say something and you guys try to help by saying something, by backing me up or perhaps challenging what I'm saying. Let's make a nice debate out of it. And nobody's losing, obviously, I promise you. So come to the mic when I say picture books. What comes to your mind by now? You should be experts in picture books now that we have been talking about it for the past at least 2 weeks. Yalla. Hmm.
It's a
Yeah, Nana, let's go to Nana and then we will have time for Sufana. Yalla, Nana.
Picture books can be seen as books that are designed for children, and also it uses visual elements to convey meaning.
Okay, whatever you said applies to non-picture books. But what is unique about picture books? You said that they are meant for children, which is very disputed because obviously now we're doing them and we're not children, right? And we come up with ideas that are obviously so big, right? So saying that they are exclusively, because of course you didn't say exclusively, but you said they were meant and designed for children. This is a little bit tricky because there is more to what they have than meets the eye. Um, um, so what you said does not necessarily apply only to children's literature. Yeah, Nana, it applies to literature in general. Okay, let's move to somebody else. Sufana, you were raising your hand.
yes. Picture books are visual narratives or picture-oriented narratives where the focus is on the text as much as is on the picture. Both hold meaning to convey the meaning of the text.
Yeah, very interesting. I like it when you started with this idea that they are visual narratives. Can you elaborate on this visual narrativeness? Yeah, Sufano?
Yes, one of the themes of these books is that the visual part represents meaning a lot in depth to these stories. So, color, composition, sizes, in comparison to other characters, can convey meaning that the text itself does not imply. So, we can understand power dynamics, emotions through colors, for example, or even gender roles.
Okay, so and what is the literal meaning of the phrase? Can you unpack what, I mean, visual narrative? So what's this with this element of visual? Why are we saying it's, I mean, obviously you have a noun and you have an adjective, and obviously the noun is sometimes or is the core of the phrase, right? So
Mm,
it's a narrative which makes it like all other narratives, like the novels that we have been reading, the short stories. But
mhm.
perhaps what is characteristic or unique is the fact that this narrative is visual. Can you elaborate on the phrase can you unpack it?
So the narrative, if I understand correctly, is pushed by the visuals.
Mhm. You
So
mean
we
the
understand.
visuals inform the narrative, looking thoroughly at the visuals, the images, in other words, can inform the discussion spawning out of the narrative.
Yes, and then it can
Mm.
also we can understand the themes a lot more than just the text. So they work together to convey the overall idea.
And what is a narrative after all? Because we keep repeating the word, perhaps somebody is not quite clear about what a narrative is. Is it like storytelling, for example?
Yes,
More or less, right?
yes. With
Yes.
if we say narrative, basically we tend to focus on one singular character, I would say.
Not really, and I'm not going, and I'm just explaining what narrative because we
Okay.
keep dropping terms. Uh, we want to engage everyone, so I'm trying to say that a narrative is storytelling. So
Mm,
novels are storytelling, short stories are storytelling, right? So
yes.
it's yeah. So you have a novel or you have a short story, I'm talking about what picture books are. You have a novel or a short story, but what is added here? We have a new dimension, which is the visuals, the imagery, the images and the pictures, right? Again, we tend to put a premium on the image. We're saying it is very central to and key to a full understanding and appreciation of the whole enterprise, the whole project, or yeah, right? Again, you would set those pictures against pictures that you have seen also in novels and other literary forms, where obviously the pictures were there for decorative reasons. I mean, nothing else, right? But again, with picture books, the pictures are so crucial. A full understanding cannot happen until and unless you engage with the pictures or the images, right? So when we talk about the images, what strikes our eyes? What is it that we look for in images that can inform the our understanding of the text? I'm asking everyone. Okay, Sufana, go ahead.
So we have composition, we have color, we have lighting, symbols, gestures, and sequence of events could all convey meaning and emotion to the plot.
Yeah. Okay. So we're talking about colors, we're talking about the portrayal of the characters, where they are on the page, where they are portrayed. Are they on the margin or in the center? The relationship on the page, the characters, when they are drawn together, which of them is big, which of them is small, whether they are kind of in front of each other, are they facing each other, or they are giving each other their backs? That can make a difference. Um, the kind of clothes that they are wearing, are they wearing clothes or not? Because we're talking about animals primarily, so they may not wear clothes, and that's fine for animals, obviously. And whether those animals were at one point wearing clothes and then they were stripped of them, and whether this is good or bad, this is very symbolic, right? We spoke about different colors and what those colors mean in the large scheme of things when we talk about psychology, right? Um, when we talk about the background and whether it's plain or it's black and white or colored, perhaps it indicates change of scenery, change of seasons, right? So the landscape can make all the difference. Whether we are in a city setting or in nature, it can all make all the difference, right? So these are all codes. We call them codes that we need to unlock and uncover as we proceed. Again, unlocking them can inform what we are reading. Again, this is all meant to help us understand the text. Again, we said that the text can stay silent on a lot of things. It's only when you go to the image and look at it very thoroughly and deeply that you come up with ideas and you understand the text even more, right? So what else? Again, I'm stressing the idea of anthropomorphism in picture books, where for the most part, I'm not generalizing, obviously, but at least the two picture books that we're doing this semester tell us that anthropomorphism is very important and very central. And we spoke about even the history of anthropomorphism. But before I delve deep into the history of anthropomorphism, I would like somebody to come to the mic and tell us what anthropomorphism is.
Doctor, can I?
Yeah, please.
Actually, anthropomorphism means that giving the human qualities like the ability to talk, to speak, to walk, and so on, to something that is unhuman, like what happened with Peter Rabbit. He is animal, he is rabbit, but the writer give him the quality of being a human. He wear a jacket and he walk like people, and he engage in adventures and have emotions when we see him like cry when he locked in the garden, and we see he afraid from Mr. McGregor when he escaped him, and so on.
Yeah, that's interesting. The idea that we're giving human characteristics and attributes to animals. They behave and act just like us. They love and hate. They, you know, experience, feelings that we thought are exclusive to human beings,
Doctor,
like anger, love, fear. Yeah, go ahead, yeah, Budur.
and also often the writers of children books use this anthropomorphism because it attractive the children, because when children like see a story where the characters are human, maybe they will not be attracted like when they see these characters as animals.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, children perhaps feel more, uh, what, more perhaps at ease dealing dealing even with with animals. Um, yeah, that's true. Anybody else about this idea of anthropomorphism? So let's talk about the history of anthropomorphism. Obviously, anthropomorphism is not Beatrice Potter's invention. It has always been there, right? It's one of the staples of children's literature and picture books. Does it have a history that we can go back to, anthropomorphism? So obviously it's not a 19th century or a 20th century or a 21st century invention. Goes all the way back to prehistory, and we're talking about,
Greeks.
yeah, Sufana, go ahead. The Greeks, yeah.
You mentioned they were attributed to the Greeks, to a certain philosopher who I cannot pronounce the name.
I mean, actually, he's not a
Xenophon.
philosopher. He's a fabulist, somebody who writes fables, and his name is Aesop.
What was his name?
Aesop, Aesop.
It starts with an X, right?
No, no, no. It's
Okay.
Aesop. It's Aesop. Obviously, this is um, rendered from Latin, obviously Old Latin. So we call him in Arabic Aesop. So Aesop is all about fables or stories where animals feature very prominently. Perhaps the difference between Aesop, who is a Greek fabulist, and we're talking about the time before the Christian era, perhaps 2000, I mean, more than 2000 years old, where Aesop has this idea of moralizing. When I say a fable, and obviously the difference between a fable and a picture book is that in picture books, this idea of moralizing is up for grabs. I mean, people can agree or disagree on it. You don't really know whether the writer is very direct with his or her moral lessons, or perhaps stays ambivalent like Beatrice Potter. So the idea of moralizing is not very clear with picture books, when it is very clear with Aesop. Aesop used to write fables, and fables, one big um, mark about fables is that they are direct about their intended, moral and educational agenda. And even in our history as Muslims and Arabs, we have this kind of contribution. We did contribute to this literature of anthropomorphism, where we have, works like Kalila and Dimna uh, by Ibn al-Muqaffa. Obviously, they even say that this is taken from and was inspired by, Indian literature, where we have also this great fabulist by the name of Daidaba. Daidaba was obviously Indian, and Ibn al-Muqaffa was actually inspired by him, and he wrote Kalila and Dimna. We have also in Persian literature, they have Mantaq al-Tayr by Farid al-Din al-Attar, which is another anthropomorphic piece of work. I think Ibn Tufayl also wrote a philosophical tale called Hayy ibn Yaqzan. This is amazing. So these are all anthropomorphic in nature, and they have a bit of moralizing to them. Again, the difference between them and modern day picture books is that it's not very clear, and perhaps the writers of our time and even prior came to the realization that being direct about moral lessons is not the right thing to do. Being preachy and giving moral lessons is not always the way to go. People don't like to be lectured on what to do and what not to do. But if you kind of drop symbols here and there, I mean, the idea of challenging people to understand those symbols is better than giving them the meanings and straight away. So anthropomorphism is at the core of picture books. Yeah, go ahead, Yusufan.
Uh, when you said that there's a difference between what we do now and then, could it also be related to the fact that right now we have actual picture books and then they didn't, mostly they focused on storytelling rather than
Yeah, that's
speech?
interesting. Yeah, that's a good idea. The fact that with the people like Daidaba and Farid al-Din al-Attar. Farid al-Attar, I think it's a poem, and it's a very long one. So you have verbal imagery, if you like, right? Yeah, that can be a difference. The idea that with I'm helping you by providing imagery. I wouldn't go more than that. I'm giving you everything. I'm giving you a text, and I am supplementing the text with images. So the idea that I stop and lecture you and give you the moral lesson would be a bit of a stretch, would be too much, right? This is what you're trying to say, Sufan.
Yes, I feel like when you have the book written in front of you, you have the time to dissect it properly and you see the visual images. But when you're
Mm.
just standing in the street and telling people the story, it's different and you have to do it quickly. So you don't really have the time to engage the audience very well.
Perhaps in the past, the focus is obviously on the written word, or not even the written, because they can be narrated orally. Uh, Unlike our times, the word meant so much for all cultures. The word,
Yes,
the
true.
spoken words, traditions are for the most part. I'm talking about literature traditions are for the most part oral traditions. That word came much later. So, and also, if we talk about our Islamic context, you need to remember that there, there was images were frowned on. They were not. The idea of images, unless they are verbal in poetry, for example, they were. A painting is not. our best is not obviously our favorite, perhaps for cultural or religious reasons, some interpretations, and we don't have that anymore. So that would add also to the idea that those you know fables were you know only words, obviously, right? Yeah, that's interesting. Anthropomorphism, everyone. Um, so let's now uh, talk about the Little Peter Rabbit in terms of um, we've been engaged in theory about picture books and what they have, the symbols, the codes, um, and how they kind of help with the hidden and implicit meaning. Let's apply all of that to the tale of Peter Rabbit. So let's do the same thing. Now that we have known all about picture books, and we're saying that the tale of Peter Rabbit is a picture book. So when I say the tale of Peter Rabbit, what comes to your mind? The picture book that we call the tale of Peter Rabbit. Again, I would like you to think of the title along gender lines. I mean, it's the tale of Peter Rabbit, it's not the tale of somebody else. I think you know what I mean, right? It's not the tale of
So we
Topsy
can,
or Cotton or Mopsy, right?
yes,
Or not even the mom. You remember how important the mom is as a single mom. I mean, shouldering the whole responsibility after the demise of the father, showing authority when there is a need for it, guiding, parenting, and still the tale of Peter Rabbit, not the tale of, I mean, she doesn't even have a name, right?
yes.
But perhaps this is the subject of another day. I don't want to kind of overdo it. Okay, what comes to your mind when I say the tale of Peter Rabbit?
We can say that it's a picture narrative or a visual narrative, and it uses the literary device anthropomorphism. And from the title itself, we can say that it focuses on a male rabbit in comparison to his female siblings or younger sisters, we can say. Um, the story can cover themes of individuality, disobedience, gender roles. We can stretch it a bit to colonialism and the underlying role of
Hmm.
colors composition to the story.
Yeah. Yeah, this is obviously what comes to your mind, but obviously when we talk about it, we'll divide all of that into categories and sections, right? Yes, Fana?
Yes,
Yeah, that's
trying
interesting.
to organize the thesis statement, if you will.
Yeah. So other people, obviously, things mean different things to different people. So again, what comes to mind when I say the tale of Peter Rabbit? Anyone and everyone. Perhaps what sticks with you about the tale of Peter Rabbit? Something that you're not likely to forget for perhaps the rest of your life about the tale of Peter Rabbit. A takeaway, if any. I think,
Maybe, Doctor, the
yeah,
manipulation that happened from the writer, when like this story in the surface appear like she teach the children or teach us you should avoid you should obey your parents or something like that, but when you look like more closely, you will understand she may be with the idea that everyone should act against the rules, or maybe discover the world, not listen to the parents, or maybe to the social norms, something like that.
You mean the fact that the writer is, yeah, I mean, everything is hanging in the balance, if you like, where you don't really know
I mean, like
what
the
she
story.
intended and what she wanted to say, right?
I mean, like the
It
story
can
about
be,
like innocent
mhm.
story teach the children
Yeah,
to avoid disobedience, but actually
mm.
it teaches them to disobey their fathers and their mothers.
It can be that this is that can be an interpretation, and the idea that there are rules that we should follow, of course. But there comes a time when you have to challenge those rules if they don't make sense, right? You have to understand them. You have to subject them to your reason and to your mind. And if they pass the test, that's fine. They go. And if they don't, that this is what we learned from philosophy. And I'm sure you have done A230, A100A, where there was those ideas of was it? I think it was Plato, and you took some of his dialogues where Socrates is featured as the thinker who is obviously engaging with people in the street, and asking them questions and then challenging their answers. And the criteria that he is using are inspired by reason. So if you make a statement, or if you give me an answer, it has to go through my mind. If my mind accepts it, it is good. If my mind finds it irrational, not making sense, I don't accept it. This is exactly what is perhaps happening here. Rules are good, especially if they are perhaps tested and tried through tradition. But sometimes not all that you receive from your parents or from your culture are applicable. They don't necessarily apply to our modern times. So they need some kind of revision. And this is perhaps what she's trying to say. We need to question what we receive, the pieces of advice that come down to us, even from our loved ones, our parents. Obviously, our parents, nobody is more dearer or dearer, yeah, much or even dearer to our hearts than our parents. But still, you can question the logic behind a certain set of rules and say, perhaps no, that doesn't apply to my case and stuff. So perhaps this is something that Beatrice Potter had in mind. Yes, that's a very interesting idea. Yeah, Budur, thank you for that. Yeah, what
Welcome.
else? Yeah, any other ideas that comes to our mind straight when I say a tale of Peter Rabbit before we engage in formal discussions? I mean, putting things in different categories. Categories. Okay. Okay. So the title can also be very revelatory of what kind of visual narrative we are in for. Remember, the title is The Tale of Peter Rabbit, and it's not the tale of any. Um, so let's calculate now. Let's make some kind of inventory of the characters and see how many of them are male or males and how many of them are females, and see where the majority is or are. So obviously, when we talk about the mother, the three sisters, that would make them four, right? And then when we talk about the male characters, we have Peter and we have Mr. McGruger, right? Now we have in the background, the distant background, the wife of Mr. McGruger. So that would, if you add the wife to the other four, it means that you have five female characters and only two male characters. Yet the title of the the picture book is the title that carries the name of, or that has the name of a male. Does this tell you something? Yeah, that can, right? Um, so the Tale of Peter Rabbit. So, I mean, even the title can tell you that um, it's perhaps has this perennial bias, you know. Yeah, so the title strikes this note, and again, it's Peter that we're having. And so when you go and read the picture book and then come back to the title, you find that Peter is not a human being, right? And that would bring in the idea of anthropomorphism, which would tell me that the Tale of Peter Rabbit, this picture book, is anthropomorphic. And anthropomorphism is interesting for children, very engaging for children indeed. And it can also play a role in other picture books, like we'll see in Voices in the Park. So it's a tool that writers also use to serve certain purposes. Um, and then when we talk about the characters, we have um, Peter, the bunny, and we have his family, his mother, his widowed mother, let me put it this way, and his three sisters. And we see the interaction between and among them, and the interaction with other characters outside the circle of the family. Obviously, it's a limited circle, given the fact that it's also a small family whose father is dead, and we get to know how he got killed or how he died, right? It's of course it is stated very matter of factly, but um, again, the emotions, you wouldn't feel what perhaps the kids and the mother are feeling. Um, so when we talk about the characters in terms of, I mean, that the storyline is obviously very straight, where the main character kind of moves between two settings. He starts off with his family in a trunk of a tree, um, and then he moves to the garden or the farm of the guy, perhaps a few meters away from them. And this idea of trespassing, and whether we're going to consider it trespassing or perhaps claiming what what is your own, obviously. So we'll get to this idea of interpretation later. So in terms of characters, like I said, you have the mother and her three daughters and her only son. You also have Mr. Magruber, who happens to be a neighbor who has a farm or a garden, and he has his wife in the background. We also have other elements of nature. We have sparrows, we have mice. Um, so this is um, the characters that populate these are the characters that populate the picture book. In terms of who is dynamic and who is static, I think we now know. Uh, Reflecting on what we've been talking about and what we have read and checked for so long, we now know that Peter, is showing signs of dynamism. Um, you would expect him to be obedient, but he is not. You would expect him to follow the rules and kind of obey his mom, but he obviously doesn't. And then when he goes through those trials and tribulations, when Matt Kruger discovers him and realizes that he has eaten some of his vegetables and runs after him. If he goes back and perhaps if he's regretful, it means that he is also showing signs of change, which is typical of dynamic characters. Again, it depends on how you see the picture book and how you interpret and where you stand with what Peter did. Um, you would have the mother as perhaps a traditional mother who wants what is best and what is safe for her kids. You would think of her as dynamic in the sense that she shoulders the responsibility uh, of the family now that the father is out of the picture and dead and killed and turned into a pie. Again, typical mother, but not a typical Victorian mom, because you wouldn't expect Victorian mothers to go out of their way and but still, in the same breath, I would say that she is Victorian mother, but she has no hand in what happened to her and her family. The fact that she is now a single mom. But single moms obviously were not very, I mean, the idea wasn't very common, perhaps during the Victorian age, or perhaps we didn't hear much or we didn't read much about them. And then, of course, we have the three daughters, and I think we have this consensus over how passive they are, how overly obedient they are, and how non-assertive they are. The fact that they follow what their mom is saying very blindly, no questions asked. And again, you would look at visual confirmation and consolidation of that through what they wear, the fact that they wear um, similar stuff, they are very identical. Again, they would fit and meet the expectations of girls in the Victorian age, where obviously there is no room for girls and women to um, express nonconformity, to challenge concepts and ideas, to um, to think of themselves, to have an independent character. No. Far from it, those girls are very rooted in the Victorian culture, which obviously does not give women much. Mr. McGruger is your typical dictatorial, patriarchal figure who claims everything for himself, male as he is. We don't hear much of his wife. He is obviously dominating whenever there is a chance for dominance, and that would kind of, um, you know, take us to ideas about whether he is giving us an image that would reflect ideas bigger than himself when we talk about him as being um, um, a colonizer and a human being in with wild instincts, with the wild expansionist instincts, because obviously human beings are the only species I know that has those expansionist mindsets. He wants to expand, he wants to have his own house, his own private property, and obviously human beings do not stop there. You can have a house, but you want to have two houses, and when you have two houses, you want to have like a villa, and it never stops. Whether this is legitimate or not, whether this is reasonable or not, this is perhaps the subject of another day. But I'm trying to make this comparison between human beings and animals. And I'm saying that Mr. Magruger may be a representation of the human um, urge to expand, to go beyond the limits. Uh, um, and in this sense, you would compare him to the family of bunnies who are obviously after, you know, sustenance. I mean, the idea of having the food of your day and nothing else. No, they don't have ambitions beyond that. And obviously, the focus when Peter went was to eat. He didn't go and occupy the house and claim it as his own. All he wanted was to eat and stuff his belly with food. He didn't have any ambitions beyond that. Um, Again, this is one of the ideas, the fact that we have this colonial nature to us as human beings. And obviously, nature is up for grabs. It was not meant to be uh, um, the property of any species. But when human beings came, uh, even when human beings started, when they started as hunters and gatherers, they didn't stick to one place. Obviously, they moved wherever there was food, and obviously they were not after I mean, keeping food for days and months, and like what we're doing. And even we talk about another big sector of any society, for example, when we talk about nomads, they also move around, and they are after sustenance, whatever can keep them alive. Obviously, those ideas of colonizing and settling are new inventions. They came perhaps with the modern times, and by modern, I don't mean 18th or 17th century. I'm talking about way back when we talk about the history of people, and when we talk about anthropology. So 1,000 years from now, or to the past, is modern, right? We talk about thousands of years and perhaps millions of years. Um, so again, Mr. Magruger can be a representation of human greed, human uh, perennial sense of colonization and expansion. Let's stop on this note and come back in 10 minutes. Okay? So I'll see you in 10 minutes, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Can you hear me? Okay. Good. So again, let me remind you of the fact that we're doing revision for the midterm exam, and this is only the beginning. This is our first revision class, obviously. Then this is going to be followed by a number of revision classes because the exam is, you guys said, on November the 2nd, which means that we still have time. Okay. So again, it's the Tail of Peter Rabbit that we're revising. Spoke long and enough about the Tail of Peter Rabbit. Spoke about its visual narrativity, if you like. Spoke about the characters and our different interpretations of the characters. I would like to address myself to how we see them on the page in terms of portrayal. And I would like to address myself to this part, whether let me have this broad, interesting title about those characters as being, I mean, the whole enterprise, obviously, whether this is a portrayal or betrayal of norms and values. What do you think of this very cinematic heading? So do you think that Yellow Peter Rabbit is a portrayal or a betrayal of values? Victorian values, human values? What do you think of that? If this is the broad line. Yeah, Sufana, what do you have to say about that? If this is a question that if the exam is like an hour from now and I'm telling you that one of the questions is whether you think of the Tail of Peter Rabbit as a portrayal or a betrayal of values. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You dropped a
Yeah.
deep question, so we're taking a minute to think.
Yeah, I should be giving you time to process the question first and then think of an answer. Yes, I stand corrected here. Yeah, I'll wait for a complete minute. How about it? In the meantime, I don't expect you to spend the rest of your life thinking of of an answer to the question. سكر الباب كويس.
Doctor, you said a portrayal or a betrayal of morals?
Of norms and values, whether those values are human values, Victorian values, nature's values. Let's perhaps agree on what those values are and whether the picture book is portraying those values or betraying them, right? When we talk about nature's values, what are the values of nature that we have?
So it's a multi-dimensional question because when you said
Yeah,
portrayal or betrayal, I thought immediately, okay, portrayal, yes, it's portraying children's curiosity and rebellion, but betrayal, in a sense, it could be seen as he betrayed the safety of his Not the safety. I would say he betrayed his mother's trust, for example.
Yeah, this is a very limited level, right?
Yes,
I'm
but
thinking about
you
it
just
in
dropped.
bigger terms. Yes.
Yeah, but if we go into the deeper meanings, like as you said, colonialism, for example, or the animal and human aspect. So is it portraying the animal in its, so we see Peter in his, he's almost civilized, he's not fully animal
Hmm.
by wearing his clothes and all these stuff, but then he loses that. Maybe that is the portrayal of being true to yourself.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah,
And a
and it's
betrayal is
only
wearing skin that is not yours.
only when he was forced to, when he was stripped of his clothes and his shoes. These are obviously markers of human civilization, not animal civilization. It's only when he got rid of those, whether he liked it or not, that he could escape. Are you did you
Yes,
notice
it's
that?
you're saying the
Yeah.
opposite of what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, clarify more.
I saw it as him wearing the clothes is betrayal of his instinct of his self,
Yeah, this
and
is what I'm
removing
saying.
these.
Yeah,
Yes,
we're agreed on that. Yeah, go
yes,
on.
yes, we're on the same page. And him
Mm,
removing these clothes aligns him
mm.
more with his nature and being true to himself.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. So this
Yes, yes,
is betrayal. I mean, for humans, this is betrayal of human civilization. For him, it's portrayal of his true self, right? Or
yes,
truer
yes,
self, right?
yes.
Mm. And where does safety lie? Is it when he was fully closed or when he got rid of those clothes?
When he became true to himself.
Yeah, when
Of
he
course,
was
for
stripped
society,
on
this
them.
feels like a betrayal because he
Mm.
went against their norm. But to
Uh,
him, to himself, he is standing
yeah,
true to himself and his own values, you would say.
I remember that. I mean, the mom didn't ask much about what happened, as if she's used to him doing that, and also perhaps deep down she knows that this is what should happen. The fact that being true to yourself as an animal means that you don't wear clothes that are obviously imported from another species, human beings. I mean, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Okay. So think about it, and perhaps you can develop a number of essays on that, whether the whole picture book is portraying or betraying values. And depending on what values we're referring to, you can have the essay. I mean, if it's kind of portraying or betraying human values, you would talk about an aspect. If it's betraying and or portraying nature's values, and obviously nature's values are obviously about not accepting private ownership, believing that nature is such an open space and everybody should partake of it, right? Nobody should cut a piece and say and claim rights to it, right? Yeah, that's, I mean, somebody is saying something in the chat. Let me check that. So Wafa is saying portrayal of values because the story teaches moral lessons such as obedience, respect for parents, and learning from them. Yeah, that's interesting. This is an aspect. If you would like to think about it along those lines, Yafa, why don't you come and elaborate on that, Yafa? MashaAllah, your English is excellent. Unless you, I mean, if you don't have a mic, this is perhaps a different. Can you come to the mic and share this with us? Okay. Okay. Let me assume that she doesn't have a mic. Okay. طيب. Um, Again, one of the issues that I have a problem with the microphone. That's fine. Yeah. Wafat, thank you so much for your contribution. Um, One of the issues that is quite relevant to this ongoing conversation on um, this idea of responsibility, this idea of obedience and disobedience, there is also this idea of moral ambiguity. And because you cannot safely 100% say that doing what he did, um, Peter, is wrong. And you cannot safely say that he is doing what he did is good either, right? So we have this idea that for some people, this is downright robbery. What Peter did is um, unequivocally wrong because you step into the property of somebody else, you eat his vegetables uninvited. And obviously, in our modern and in our urban terms, this is wrong. That can land him in trouble. That can even be incriminating. He can go to prison for that, right? So where do you stand? This idea of moral ambiguity, which is translatable into ambivalence when it comes to the writer. You don't really know where she stands. Let's first of all establish whether you think this is wrong. I mean, infringing on other people's property and eating or staying or doing whatever. Whether you think this is wrong or perhaps it's more nuanced than that. You cannot think of it in such black and white terms because there is obviously more to it than just that. What do you think? Where do you stand on that?
We give enough space for children to form their individuality by allowing them certain spaces to discover themselves. But in the situation for Peter, especially, I would say that his situation I would not approve of because it holds a lot more danger than benefit.
You mean in the interest of children's safety, you would condemn what he did?
Yes.
Mhm.
He miraculously lived by sheer luck, I would say. And that's not guaranteed for everyone. So we have to make the moral story understandable that there is consequences, and the story showcases that, but it can be much more darker consequences, which the story also
Yeah.
hints at with what happened with the father.
Oh, so let me I mean, perhaps I mean you said something and obviously you're sticking to it and then you're talking about it in a larger in larger terms. Let's stick with the idea that you believe that in the interest of children's safety, the picture book can be a cautionary tale where
Yes,
children should learn a lesson of two. I mean, if you listen to your mom, you're safe and comfortable and everything in between.
yes,
If you don't listen, this is what may happen to you. You may be turned into a pie. You may be chased out of your breath, and the next thing you know is that you die, right? So this is a
yes,
level of understanding, and this is a level of interpretation that you with you feel should be there, right?
yes. But I
But in
also
a
have an
yeah,
yeah, there
yeah,
is
go
an
ahead.
understanding that we have to give children a space to discover themselves.
Mm,
Maybe not in this context of the story I would approve of, maybe in a different story, like for example, Tom's Midnight Garden, where it's almost a safe space in a garden There's a space where the child is allowed to discover himself. That I would find more safe and allows the child to discover their own individuality. But in a and I understand also that we need tough times and difficult situations to discover ourselves in the first place. But for me, the danger outweighs the benefit.
Yeah, sometimes if you conduct this kind of what do they call cost and benefit analysis, obviously the cost can be very, I mean, you're obviously putting your life on the line, right?
Yes.
And this is exactly what we have seen the father do. The father is no more simply because he was also venturing into unknown territory. He had obviously the same motives. He was under the impression that this is open nature and there is no room for private property. He went perhaps to eat and bring food with him to his family. But obviously, the rules of engagement are different now with human beings in the picture, pushing towards private ownership and property and all those kinds of things. That's interesting.
When you
Yeah.
said it like that, doctor, it also could translate to how children tend to follow the footsteps of their parents, whether subconsciously or not.
Yeah. And again,
Because
it's yeah, and you would also carry it even further and say that if mom is saying something and dad is saying something, I would follow what dad is saying, no matter what, right?
yes,
Yeah. So, what do you make of that? Is it also patriarchal? The fact that eventually he followed his father's lead, not his mom. I mean, he knew full well. He knew, right? He knew what happened to his father.
yes, he knew.
Oh, yeah.
But
And he,
maybe it's not more of patriarchal. Maybe it's more of children looking up to their parents, like subconsciously. No matter what, you tend to fall into the footsteps of your parents if you're not.
why wouldn't he look up to his mom? I mean, and my question is, yeah, he has his father saying something and his mom saying something else, but he followed his father, right?
It could also be the fact that his father is a man like him. So the
Yeah, this.
similarity for him works as
Mm,
well. It's not just, oh, he's a man and she's a woman. Oh, he's like me.
mm, yeah,
That could play a role in it.
that can, yeah, that's a possibility. Yes, yeah. And Nana, you wanted to say, was it Nana or Wafa? Wafa wanted to say something. Obviously, she raised her hand. Was it Nana or Wafa? I don't know. Okay, so I would like you to think very deeply about this idea of moral ambiguity and where we stand on that. This is also very interesting. And again, you would tie that into the ambivalence that we feel the writer is adopting or having. The fact that she's ambivalent on a lot of things. She's not very clear. She doesn't have a clear instructional agenda. You don't really know whether she is offering a cautionary tale, telling children out there to obey their moms and dads, obviously, or kind of face the music and have consequences, or to follow their curiosity wherever it leads them, even at the risk of having issues and problems. Yeah. Wafa is saying something. Let me hear what she has to say. Wafa is saying, I think Peter's actions teach a lesson about respecting other people's property. He was just a curious little rabbit, but what he did was wrong because he went into someone's garden and ate their food. Still, Beatrice Potter doesn't make him look bad. She shows him like a kid who makes mistakes and learns from them. Yeah, that's very well said. Yeah, if we agree with the interpretation, of course, I'm saying it's well said because she started an argument and she's following through with examples and illustrations, very convincing for those who believe that this is the trajectory of the picture book. For me, it's a different thing because I have a different perspective, a post-colonial perspective. Um, and I think it's more nuanced than just that. That's interesting. Very interesting food for thought, for further thought. Um, Again, the closure is very important. How the picture book ended, and this very famous controversy, kind of the controversy that the ending sparked, the idea of the chamomile tea and how administering and giving chamomile tea can be looked upon with divergent lenses. So you have people who would say that this is mom perhaps condoning what her son did, and she's trying to nurse him back to health no matter what. And you would have people reducing the chamomile tea to mere instrument of or tool of punishment, where everybody else is obviously eating, everybody else is eating normal food, and he is only given chamomile tea to for the night. For people, it's a punishment. Again, if it's a punishment, that would complement the picture that we're making of this idea of the picture book being a cautionary tale. Again, warning people against, against disobedience. Um, so where do you stand on that? How do you see the chamomile tea? Is it an instrument of punishment or perhaps a reward for pursuing curiosity wherever it leads, no matter what? Hmm. What do you think of the closure, the end of the picture book?
It can be seen as both.
But where do you stand?
I stand in the aspect where it's both. The mother is comforting him because he's obviously disoriented. He had a
Her
situation
son,
happening.
because he is her son, no matter
Yes.
what. Yeah.
But at the same time, she's also punishing him because she knows she does something wrong, especially since he lost his jacket, which we in the story understand that happened multiple times during his mischief.
Mhm.
So in a way, it's I'm comforting you, but at the same time, I'm scolding you because I know you did something wrong. But it also symbolizes, I feel, the order restored in the household where everything is back to normal again.
Yeah. Okay, think about it. We still have time to kind of mull it over again and again. I think I'll stop on this note and with this item. But before I do that, do you think, with whatever we said, do you think we will have more ideas to talk about if we have a master class today? What do you think? Should we keep to the Thursday master class and forget about today's master class because we perhaps will we will run out of ideas soon. What do you think?
I think we can pursue our usual masterclass. We don't need a masterclass for today. That's my opinion, but maybe someone else disagrees.
Yeah.
We
And I
covered
agree with
Peter.
Sofana.
I think
Yeah.
yes. I think we covered Peter Rabbit really well.
Mm.
Alhamdulillah.
Okay, so we'll keep to our master class on Thursday. But I need somebody to write this on the material group that we're having so that people from other classes know that we don't have a master class tonight, but we'll keep the in-class activity. So when is the in-class activity? It's at 6 o'clock, right?
Yes, and it ends at 6:30.
Yeah. I mean, the system will, but it's only for 5 minutes. I mean, the exercise itself is for 5 minutes. Okay, so can somebody volunteer and write this to our other
I'm on it,
colleagues?
doctor.
Yeah, that we don't have a master class, but we do have an in-class activity at 6 o'clock. Okay, yeah. I'll see you inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Bye bye.